All right, we're going to continue to talk about the bones. So we're on page 11, so we have two things to cover. Two more things to cover, which I will, three more things to cover. Fracture and bone repair, and then calcium homeostasis. We're going to start with calcium homeostasis. I wanted to show you what it looks like in our slides. So our slides it shows how it kind of works with pictures. And let me show you a little bit more. Oh, I think that's it. That's all I have for those. So my suggestion is that we do it in a table. Okay. So I'm actually going to pull up the lecture outline. We're going to look at a little bit further down. Okay, this is it. So this is my suggestion for all of the hormones that you do in your life ever. No matter what class you take, this is a nice way to learn about hormones, okay? So the first hormone and the first stimulus, remember we always start with a stimulus, you can call this a trigger too. This should look a lot like negative feedback loops, because it is. Okay, we're going to be doing a feedback loop. So the stimulus is low blood calcium. Now, this is not bone calcium, this is blood calcium. Just remember that, because your body doesn't care about your bones, if there's calcium in your bones or not. We care about your blood calcium, and we're going to keep it in a very tight homeostasis. So low blood calcium is your trigger, not bone calcium, blood calcium. And the hormone that you will release is PTH, and you're welcome to use that abbreviation, or parathyroid hormone. Okay. And you want to write this down because this will be gone sometime soon. I want you to use your words. Who makes it is the parathyroid gland. So the parathyroid gland, let me just explain where it is. If you were to take, here's your thyroid. I actually don't have one. I had a thyroidectomy, mostly because I felt my thyroid gland and it didn't feel right. So I quickly got an ultrasound, quickly got a biopsy, got it removed, didn't have to get any chemo or anything like that because I got it removed so quick, because I'm always palpating different parts of me to check. Okay, so everybody's going to check their thyroid, and then I'll show you where your parathyroid gland is. So put your hands on your throat and go ahead and swallow. Okay, that's your larynx that you just felt that went up and down when you swallowed. Your thyroid is not there. It's way below that, about 2 inches on both sides. You should feel something fatty, and you can't do it while you're talking, but you should feel something fatty, and you just kind of squish on it. It shouldn't feel like much. The most important thing is it feels the same on both sides. That's it. That's all you want, is the same squishiness on both sides. Well, mine didn't, and then I was used to feeling it, and so I was like, oh, let me go find out what's going on here. If I took that squishy thyroid out, like literally took it out and looked at it, on the back side, the posterior side, there would be 4 little dots. Those dots are the parathyroid gland. You have one. They're little dots. They release parathyroid hormone, okay? And the target, or the effector, you're welcome to use either one. Whoops, effector. The target or the effector is, does anybody know? There's more than one. One of them is the kidney. One of them is the kidney. So I'm actually going to write, when there's more than one, sometimes it's nice to write like, hey, there's more than one effector. Another effector is osteoblasts. Let's do osteoclasts. Okay. Osteoclasts. Okay. So that's another effector. All right. The response, we have 2 effectors. That means we have to have 2 responses. And it turns out we're going to have 3. So the kidney is going to do 2 things. 1A, the kidney is going to retain more calcium from the almost urine, okay? From the almost will be urine, it's going to retain more. 1B, this is also from the kidney, it's going to release a hormone. And that hormone's name is called calcitriol. Oops. Anytime I release a hormone, that means I have to do another line down here, okay? Because we need to have every single hormone we ever mentioned has to have its own line. So it's going to be a little redundant, but once you learn how to do this, it really keeps you organized with all of your hormones. Okay, 2, osteoclasts, what are they going to do? So that's my response for osteoclasts. They're going to increase activity, meaning increase bone resorption. What does that mean? I am going to take more calcium from my bones and put it into my bloodstream, okay? All of these responses do what? Do I go back into homeostasis or am I getting more out of homeostasis? What do you think? These are negative feedback loops. So my stimulus, my stimulus right here is low blood calcium. Look at everything here. I mean, release a hormone, we don't know yet, but retain calcium. We're going to retain calcium in the blood. We're going to increase osteoclasts and increase how much calcium we're putting back into the blood from the osteoclast. Do you see how it's a negative feedback loop? Good. All right, the next line we already know has to be calcitriol because we already said that the kidney was going to release it. The kidney releases it in response to PTH. Now, the kidney does not care that you have low blood sugar. Sorry, low blood calcium. It doesn't care. It only cares about PTH. It can't detect if you have low blood, whatever. All it knows is PTH, oh, it has a little ear, has a little receptor that says, oh, okay, PTH, cool. Who makes it is the kidney. So you're going to see it's a little redundant. Who is the target? It's the GI tract, believe it or not. So it's your small intestine mostly, but your GI tract is fine. And what is the response of the GI tract? Retain in the bloodstream more calcium from your was food. Okay, from the thing that was you were eating. So we're going to grab more calcium, reabsorb, absorb more calcium than we would have normally. This is a negative feedback loop. I started with low blood calcium. Now I'm going to put more calcium in my blood from calcitriol, okay? The last one we need to talk about is a different hormone, and it has a totally different trigger. So these two go together. Let me show you what I mean by that. And I'm spending more time on these hormones because it really helps when you lay it out correctly. Now it's really organized. You do this with any hormone. So these two go together. Now we're actually going to talk about what if I have high levels of calcium. Now, this is not normal. High levels of what? In the blood calcium, high levels of calcium in the blood, okay? So this is not that common. Occasionally you will have high blood calcium levels, but generally speaking, humans that we are, we don't have a lot of high blood calcium. But let's say today's a good day and we ate a lot. We ate a lot of green leafy vegetables. For some reason, we're absorbing a lot of calcium. It's amazing. We're having an amazing day. We're going to release calcitonin, and the organ that's going to release it is the thyroid gland. Okay, so the thyroid gland is going to release it, and the target is osteoclasts. And the response of the osteoclast is exactly opposite. Decrease activity. Less bone resorption, less taking calcium from the bone. So now the osteoblast, I want you to talk about that war. I want you to think about that war between the clasts and the blasts. If clasts slow down their activity, they're like in mud, slowing. But the blasts are still doing their thing. Secrete matrix. Let's make some bone. Do you see who's winning right now? So when it's calcitonin, you're going to be putting on bone. You're going to be getting nice thick bone. When it's PTH, you're taking from the bone to put into the blood. When it's calcitriol, you're taking from the bone, putting into the blood. Everybody see it? I mean, calcitriol doesn't take from the bone. Calcitriol actually takes from the GI tract. But do you see how that PTH and calcitriol are for low blood calcium? Calcitonin is high blood calcium. Okay. And you'll see in 232 that these are antagonizing. They do the opposite. They have the opposite effect, but we're not worried about that right now. Okay. Perfect. So the last piece that we need to talk about are fracture and bone repair. This first box right here just is referring to fractures, any break in the bone. A compound fracture breaks enough that you'll see the bone through the skin. A simple fracture would be one that you don't see it through the skin. It's not breaking through the skin. So I have a slide of a bunch of different kinds of fractures, and we're not going to name all of them. That's more of a reference, but we just want compound and simple fractures. Okay. And then the very last piece in your lecture notes that you want to fill in are, when I have a fracture, what are the steps that need to happen for that fracture to heal, and what's the time frame? So you can see I've got fracture hematoma. You're going to make cartilage. Let me tell you the story first, and then you can fill in all the details. So first thing you're going to do is bleed. Okay, you have a break. It's very vascular. You're going to bleed. But when you bleed, the cool thing about when you bleed is you're going to bring a whole bunch of mast cells. You're going to bring a whole bunch of cells that are going to cause inflammation in that area. So it's going to get really red and bright red. But you're also going to bring a bunch of cells that can start to blood clot. And also you can start to make a cartilage plug. Okay. So you're actually going to make a cartilage, fibrocartilage callus next. You're going to have these little chondroblasts that come and they make cartilage, kind of like you always make cartilage where the bone's going to be someday. Okay. You always did this even before you were born. Then you'll come in and you'll have osteoblasts that will blow up. Basically, those little cartilage cells will sort of blow up and lyse. You'll have osteoblasts that come in. They make a bony callus. It actually will become nice and thick. It's not very organized. It'll be kind of trabeculae-ish. And then for the next year or so, you'll actually do bone remodeling and make it perfect. What's crazy about this is if you get a cast on a broken limb, you'll get a cast off at about 6 weeks, which is you're kind of right here. All right, you're starting to make fibrocartilage and you've got fibrocartilage there, but you certainly haven't put bone down. Why would you take the cast off before you lay down the bone? I want you to think about that, and we'll break that in the chat when we get to class, okay? Why would I take the cast off early? Why not just leave it on for a whole year? Because bone remodeling is actually going to take a year or more. Why not leave it on so that it's perfect? Is it perfect? Will it be perfect? Okay, so think about that. Now let's fill in the details when we look here at this slide. And so you've got the first piece is you've got a hematoma, you're bleeding. This is happening for several hours after that fracture occurs. Very vascular. Now we're going to make the fibrocartilage callus, and that is going to be for several weeks. You're going to make this chondroblasts will come in and make a bunch of cartilage there. So it's flexible, but yet it's holding. This is the part that'll happen after you take off your cast, is you're going to start to make a bony callus. So osteoblasts are going to come invade in this area, and they're going to start to make kind of an unorganized trabeculae, kind of unorganized. I mean, they're going to just deposit a bunch of bone matrix. And then it'll take 1 year or more for the next year, we're going to bone remodel, and we're going to put in, the osteoblasts will reorganize along the stress lines. And you will have a brand new bone. And is it stronger than it was before? Probably. Yeah, it probably is. So it'll be nice and strong. You can see, sometimes you can see just a little bit of bulging from extra bone. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to stop the share and we're done with this chapter. Lots and lots, big chapter. Great job. See you in class. We'll put some chats together.